current events, injustice, police brutality, systematic racism, politics. What say ye? Enough said. Welcome back to Enough Said with your hosts, Jemo, Carolite, and Cherry Poet. Today, we're going to be talking about rape with reference to Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Cosby, and Weinstein. So, Jemo, what say ye?
What say ye? Before we do anything, what are you guys drinking?
Just plain orange juice.
I'm doing my lazy shake again, just strawberry milk and oatmeal.
Oh, I missed the strawberries this time. And I am just drinking some ginger ale. That's all. But I put it in a wine glass so it looks good. But I wanted to ask you ladies before we get started, can anybody tell me what this is? Who can tell me what this is? Real quick, it's a fruit.
Don't know.
It's jackfruit.
That's what it is, jackfruit. So I have a piece of jackfruit. Anybody who gets that, know it's healthy for you. Okay, moving right along. So in the news, we found out that an accomplice of Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. Her name is Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell. Apparently, she was an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. And most people, for those who don't know, Jeffrey Epstein was charged with sexual abuse of minors back in the 90s up to 2005. He was arrested and he was in prison and he supposedly committed suicide, which we'll get into a little bit later, because there's question whether this was really suicide or not. So this lady, Ghislaine Maxwell, had a personal as well as a professional relationship with Epstein. He used to be his recruiter in a way. You know, they would bring these young girls in, they would buy them all kinds of stuff so they feel indebted to Jeffrey Epstein. And then they would start, Maxwell, the woman, in some cases would start grooming these girls. She would get undressed in front of these girls like it's nothing. She would start talking sexual stuff and groom them so that eventually Epstein would have sex with them. She was arrested in New Hampshire and charged with a crime. So that's a good move.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Wow. This is such a intense topic for me. And, you know, thinking of the fact that a woman, it's one thing to have a man sexually molest or rape women, but when you have women who are accomplices to this type of behavior, I don't even have words. I have no words other than quickly lock her up and throw away the key. Quickly.
What say you, Cherry?
The whole thing is sad, you know. I still, in the back of my mind, feel like, you know, not that what these men did wasn't wrong. You know, I'm not saying it wasn't wrong, but I mean, it's no more wrong than it is when the average men sleep with younger girls, you know, and buy them stuff, you know, take them to McDonald's and things like that. And it's like, you know, when it happens with the average Joe, he doesn't get sued. But when it happens with a billionaire, he gets sued. So, yeah, I just feel like there's a problem with that.
Let me correct that. It's not sued because that would be for money. They get sued too for money, Terry, but what they do is they get charged. And with the average Joe, sometimes the girls are intimidated or they don't report it or it's covered up or it's a family member that does it. And then so they never get charged. And of course, they never bring a lawsuit for financial gain. But in Epstein's case, it was over a long period of time. And some of the girls were as young as 14 years old. You know, and so they couldn't have, it's what we call statutory rape. They couldn't have the ability to consent. With statutory rape, well, once you're generally under the age of 16, even if you agree to have sex, it's still rape because you're underage. That's why it's called statutory rape. So by statute or law, you're going to be charged whether the person is in agreement or not. I've seen cases where they ran out and got married to the younger person just so they wouldn't be charged. But remember now, if you marry somebody under the age of 18, I think it's 18, you have to get parental consent in most states.
I believe that, once you hit, when you're in your teen years, even up till you're about 30, if you think about your life after 30, you look back to those days and you look back at a lot of things and say, what exactly was I thinking? Because your brain is not yet developed to where it's at the age of and you're not as experienced as someone who is in their 30s, 40s, 50s. So a lot of things that we do in our teenage years, a lot of persons look back and say, wow, I wasn't even aware of what I was doing or what I was saying, or I had so much convictions about this. So at this young age, for an adult to be recruiting young girls and having sex with them, that is just, first of all, what you do when you do that, you totally are robbing these young people of their childhood. It is such a crime that I don't even have the words to explain the ramifications of acts like these. These girls now, you're treating them as if they're adults that can consent to what they're doing, as if they really, really, honestly, fully understand the gamut of what they're doing.
And what happens is they have psychological damage for the rest of their lives, most of them, because they're too young to understand what they're doing. A lot of these girls are virgin at those young age, and sexual abuse or molestation is so rampant in our society that it is time. In fact, the Me Too movement let us know it's time for women to stand up, young girls to stand up and not put up with it.
Violence is a stimulant that these predatory sociopaths feed off in educational institutions. Silence allowed Anderson to victimize hundreds of victims as he continued his university affiliation and access to student Anderson also put 2 ungloved fingers into my vagina and wiggled them. I was distraught and shocked. He squeezed them firmly. Anderson commented about the extremely large size of my breast. I remember crying as I dressed and tried to regroup before leaving the room. He made a crass sexual comment. I wanted to disappear from the exam table and into the wall. I view Anderson as a serial sexual predator. He grabbed my breast. I didn't want my teammates to see me crying. Anderson turned my sports physical exam into his bizarre and inappropriate torture event.
Cherry Point?
Yeah, it's the whole thing is crazy. It is a shame, a crying shame that, these men with all they have, yeah, especially with Epstein, who, he has so much going for him. It's like, why do something like this? Why go out of your way to recruit and sleep with, really young girls? I'm not getting that.
I think what we have to do is look at rape for what it is. Rape is about usually these men having control. Everybody in life would love to have control, where you can tell somebody, come, go. It's almost like treating human beings like they're your pets. So every man would love to have a woman who he can just control and say, do this. This is what I want in bed. This is it. Do this, do that. When they have these young girls, they instruct a lot of times the young girls what to do. They have to give in to whatever demands that they want. So most of this behavior is out of a feeling of control. Sometimes they don't even really love or care about that person, because a lot of times these molesters and rapists, they don't just rape one woman. Usually the chronic abusers, you can find several different women that they have raped multiple amount of times. Go ahead.
You know, I feel some kind of way when you say rape, because, you know, to me, rape is taking some sex from someone who is fighting you, you know what I mean, who doesn't want to have sex with you, who is not at all consenting. That's what rape is. For a man to realize that, you know, I got a lot of money and I could totally get these young girls to come in. I mean, that's manipulation. I wouldn't call it rape. You know what I mean? That's manipulation. That's knowing that you could use your money to get what you want. And these girls are totally with it. Now, whether they're underage or not, you can't call it abuse, but to call it rape is really out of whack.
The reason it's called rape and statutory rape, even if because there's no consent required. So the mere fact that the person is underage, by law, you have committed rape, even if they begged you. I haven't heard of a situation where the woman, the girl, was the one that forced herself onto that man. But the mere fact that you're underage makes it rape by law. So you have to really check the age of these people. And going back to the point that Caroline said, a lot of these men are sick in the head, for one. That's why they do it repetitiously. They have more than one person. But I believe that oftentimes, especially with Epstein, it's more than just rape. He recruited other men to have sex with these girls. There are a lot of other famous men implicated in his scheme. It's like a whole business he was about. And I don't know if they pay him because these other men were rich and famous, such as Prince Andrew. You heard about Prince Andrew, he was implicated in it. And I'm just saying they're implicated or associated. And so I'm going to say allegedly they're in it. Donald Trump is also implicated. And there's a host of other very famous men who are implicated and who had sex with these young girls that at Epstein's home.
Okay, so you're talking about Epstein, Weinstein, and Bill Cosby.
Yes.
If what those men did, if what those men did were so was rape, then what about someone like Hugh, the Playboy gentleman, Mr. Playboy? No, he always had a bunch of young girls around him. He always slept with a bunch of young girls. Nobody ever sued him for raping. No, in fact, America just loved it. We all just loved seeing him with all these young hot chicks.
But we never saw him.
What was so different about what he did?
We never saw him with a chick under the age of 16. I have never seen that in the Playboy Mansion. They were all consenting adults. So that's the difference. If they were under the age of 18, he would have been in trouble.
Let's think about it. Like just let's lower these girls' age for a minute. Let's bring them down to that 2-year-old. Of course, if you give a 2-year-old candy, the 2-year-old is gonna run to you, take the candy, and then the adult can go ahead and put them in their laps and start to molest them. As they're being molested, it doesn't mean like that little 2-year-old finds that disgusting. They might even find it as very pacifying. It might even make them feel good. But the fact that they are 2-year-old, we can understand that that act is inappropriate because of the development of the brain. You know, even though young kids pretend to be grown, there's something about the brain that has not fully developed. So even though they might consent to these sweets that you call it, I'm pretty sure they promise them some type of sweets or monetary benefit from doing these things. Take that 16-year-old now at 30 or 40 when they honestly understand what they were doing, then this is why these women are now calling it rape. And I just want to quickly say, a lot of people will say, oh, that happened so long ago. Why is she bringing it up now? And my answer to that is why it's a trauma. When something is a trauma, as you grow older, you get to fully understand what actually happens to you. And then that is when it even hurts you more, because the full gamut and understanding of what happens now, your brain is grasping that. Then you get the disgusting feeling, the disgusting, reaction from the brain, and also, psychosomatic. And that is when you get bold enough to speak about it. So a lot of women, it takes them years before they can even fully grasp the full gamut of what happened to them when they were molested or when they were raped in a younger age.
That's true. And so let's talk about, that's very true, Carol. Like Harvey Weinstein, he is the movie mogul who was arrested for rapes. He raped several women. I'm not sure if any of them were underage, but several. So he was arrested around May of 2018. And then he had a jury trial. He posted his $1 million bond because he's a multimillionaire, or maybe even a billionaire, I don't know. He posted his bond, and then he had a jury trial. And let me tell you, between the time he was arrested to the time of his trial, he had deteriorated so much. He was in a walker, his back was bent. When he was arrested, he was strong and bold and straight. You can tell he had the energy and the strength to rape women. But by the time his trial, he was in a walker, he was bent over. In fact, he left the trial in an ambulance. So he now faces between 5 to 25 years in jail, Harvey Weinstein. What say you about that, about his condition and how he left court, and what do you think why he did that?
I think that's how the business is. Many women go through that type of stuff in the business just to try to excel. But I think when it comes to someone like Harvey Weinstein, or men in general, they look at things totally different. In other words, I think his reason for deterioration, I don't think he was making it up. I don't think he was acting at all. I think the whole thing just really shocked him. Like, I think he was very successful in a business. He could make a lot of things happen for these women. He used it to his advantage. But I don't think that at any point in his mind, he felt like he was raping anybody. You know what I'm saying? I think that just like many other men in the business, they feel like they could do this.
Are you condoning rape, Cherry? Boy,
what's that?
Are you condoning rape?
No, what I'm saying to you is that I don't believe that his mindset was, I'm raping these girls. I think that he felt like, look, I could do something for you. Look, I want to sleep with you. And then the girl lets him sleep with her, and he doesn't think it's rape. And, so I think that his reason for all the deterioration that you saw with him leaned over, walking on a cane or whatever, I think that's because the whole lawsuit just totally shocked him. It's like he never thought. Now, I'm not saying he didn't rape them. I'm saying in his mind, he didn't rape them. So this is just like a blow to him.
I disagree.
Here's a thing that I want to say about the mindset of men in general when it comes to rape. See, what happens is like Cherry Point say, it's a situation where for them, because they're enjoying what they are doing, because they're getting some satisfaction out of what they're doing, they do not take the time to realize that the person that they're raping, this is no enjoyment for them at all. So it's almost like when a bully is beating up a child and he's having fun doing it, but to the child who is being bullied, it's very traumatic, it's very horrible, it's terrible. And just to say also, because I have a mouthful when it comes to this, rape is any time there is if the person is not underage, I'm talking about now adults who are of age, the minute a woman says no, The minute a woman says stop and a man continues to it's forceful entry in a lady. So here's this interesting thing. A woman can even start consenting to sex with a guy, and as they're doing it, she decides she doesn't want it anymore. And if at the point when she says, no, I'm done with this, he continues, he still is raping her. So at any point where the entry into a woman's body, this is for an adult, not a child. At any time when the entry is not, she cannot consensual, it is rape.
Let me just address that. First of all, going back to Harvey Weinstein, I think that whole bend over act was an act. He was in the movie business. He did a great big act with that. I don't believe him one moment. Second of all, even if one or a few of the ladies, he believed it was his right because they were in his bedroom to get opportunities or whatever, there were several, unless you don't believe the woman's testimony, that said they never consented. He just did it all unexpectedly and raped them, really literally raped them.
So then what about the one who kept emailing, I love you and all this stuff? And, you know, they try to make that out to be, this trauma, you know, she's traumatized. So she, you know, communicates with him and all this. If somebody rapes me, I'm not going to be communicating with them after the fact, especially for years after the fact. I'm not going to be doing that.
You have to understand the psychology of rape. A lot of women have married their rapist. The fact that he entered her without her consent, that is rape. But after that happens, there are women who decide, oh, you know, he's my first guy, and you know, since we already did that, I'm just gonna forgive him. And before you know it, they become the guy's wife. So the fact that somebody still talks to their rapist or still whatever, or even go as far as marry their rapist, doesn't mean that they weren't raped. And this is what persons don't get. You know, at the moment when you are in bed, just like there's some laws that says a husband cannot rape his wife. In certain places, it says a husband cannot rape his wife. Well, if you go by the a law that says forceful entry is rape, then if a husband forcefully enters his wife, it should be considered rape. But there
in the United States, a man can rape his wife, just based on the definition that you just said, Carolite. And there are countries I know that don't have that law, which is really very weird, because a woman can say no to her husband. There are countries who say they never say no.
Exactly.
But they can.
That's what leads to women being abused. I've even seen this where men can abuse his woman and then he holds her down after the beating and the horror, Tina Turner and Ike. And then he turns around and rape her. And then he turns around and have sex with her. And in his mind, that's not rape, because you're my wife, I own you, and I can just have sex with you whenever I please.
That's right. Women's rights. We have to talk about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby is the last person that we wanted to talk about. He's now 82 years old. Andrea Constance was the person that got him convicted. Others were past the statute of limitation. He just recently won an appeal to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and it said basically the appeal, two issues that they brought it before the court. One was the fact that he had agreed and gave money to the then district attorney, I think his name was Bruce Castor or something like that, that he would pay this lady provided he was never charged. They made an agreement with him for that. So I think that they violated that agreement. And second issue is what we call prior bad acts. Under the law, that means if someone did something before, then they should not be held accountable for it now if you're not being charged with it. For example, if you did something bad, you did a bad check 5 years ago, but today you've been charged with stalking someone, you should not bring up the prior bad acts in this trial because it taints the minds of the jurors.
Bill Cosby's thing was, you know, a complete setup, a complete attack, and of these people trying to disgrace and pull down this black man. He already paid this girl that looked more like a man than he does. He already paid her. He already paid her however many much $1 million to end the thing, and they still brought it up. They just wanted to pull him down. They just wanted to destroy his legacy and paint this black man as this evil person. When hey, you know, these white men were throwing themselves at him. You know what I'm saying? They were in his bedroom. That's what they wanted. You know what I mean? She already got paid, and still they go out of their ways to bring this man down. And that whole thing really upset me. It really upset a lot of people, and we all see it for what it is. You know, they just want to get Bill Cosby's money, because guess what? Bill Cosby is richer than most of us thought. You know?
Well, you see, these are the things where, to me, some of what is said is true, but I will disagree in the fact that I believe that he did what he did. Did they bring it up later to get money and all of that from him? Yes, but I do believe that for me, he did these acts, and if he did not do these acts, then these women would have no reason to come out. And again, remember, it's never, when these cases come to light, you know, it's never just one woman coming to light and saying it happened. And because most, for example, like in the case of, oh, God forbid I bring up Kobe Bryant, but it was one accuser, and then, you know, that was squashed. That was squashed so quickly because it was one accuser. Now, in cases where there are many accusers, that's when they bring it to the public. And therefore, my point is, there are several women getting raped, and because they don't have a group of women to come and say, he also did this to me, he also did this to me. This is what the Me Too movement is all about.
Okay, but
none of them said Bill Cosby physically raped them. None of them said that. They said he tried, he put stuff in their drink. You know, the same one who he paid off before came back, and they caught her on tape. She was caught on tape telling her friends, I could tell them anything and they'll still believe me. You know, I could tell them he raped me and they'll believe me. She was caught on tape saying that. It was all a setup.
Let me just say this.
Several had the same story, and they weren't people who know each other.
Well, I'd like to make a disclaimer here that lots of names are called in this case, and anything we say is not the law. It's a disclaimer. We're just giving our opinions. Do not take it as the law. Do not come about trying to sue us. We're just giving our opinions. Some of our facts will be accurate, some may not be. We're just talking about current events and things that we hear about, and this is just a disclaimer. Second of all, I just want to say that I don't want to describe Andrea Constant's appearance, because it doesn't matter what the appearance is. You know, she's a woman and she believes she was raped. However, having said that, I agree with some of what Cherry Poet said, and also you, Carolite. I believe that he did those, as Carolite said, but I also believe he was set up. I believe that a lot of these women were in that position, as you mentioned before, that in his mind he was raping. I have a problem though with what's the name of that drug he used? I have a problem.
I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah, I have a problem with the drugging, but I believe that the statute of limitation had run on a lot of these crimes, and I believe they were old, and I believe that they know that Bill Cosby has money. They took his money, yet they still bring a criminal charge. I have a problem with that.
Right. They broke every law to find him guilty in the end, and they're just totally wrong.
When it comes to rape, I do not believe that there should be a statute of limitation because of the traumatic thing that it does to women. I think there should never be a statute of limitation when it comes to a rape case.
Okay, we are going to follow up on this because you have, at some point, I'd love to get into the Catholic Church and the raping they're accused of, and some other rape issues.
All right, so thank you so much. for tuning in to Enough Said. That rape stuff got us all bugging. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to be talking some more about this in the coming weeks. So you stay tuned. Keep it locked. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Once again, it's Enough Said, hosted by Jemo, Carolite, and Cherry Poet. See you next time.
Thank you.
Current events, injustice, police brutality, systematic racism, politics. What say ye? Enough said.